Hi everyone, my name is Calvin. Today we're going to be going over the Paladin QuickBooks integration. If you are using QuickBooks using Paladin and you're transferring all of your information from one to the other manually, this is for you. So today we're going to be going over the integration itself, the details of that integration, the nightly ledger transfer, sorry, setting up QuickBooks and the accounts from QuickBooks into Paladin, and how to create vendor bills from closed purchases in Paladin. So with that, so Paladin's integration with QuickBooks is to save time so that you don't have to go through and manually take all of your information from your reporting in Paladin and transfer it into QuickBooks. So it makes that, quick, easy. You don't have to manually enter anything, and there's a less chance of creating any errors. So you're not going to have to be hand typing or keying things in, mistype a number or anything like that, and have to worry about that. The integration with QuickBooks offers two features. The first one is the automatic transfer of your general ledger. So all of the information that would show up on your general ledger in Paladin transfers over into QuickBooks, and this is set up by account. So you can have different sections of that ledger going into specific accounts that you choose. The other feature is the creation of a QuickBooks bill. Every time you close a purchase order in Paladin or receive EDI, it generates that bill over in QuickBooks, and we'll go over the details on that later. The GL transfer is automatic every night. So after you guys are done for the day, you go home, you don't worry about it. When you come back in the morning, all of that stuff, all of the GL will be in your QuickBooks. And that's going to include things like your sales revenue, cost of goods sold, accounts receivable, accounts payable, tax liability, as well as a few other features. And you can actually see those features if you go into the file setup and the accounting tab. You'll see that asset account section there on the left of your screen now. There's more information in that as you scroll through. Each one of those things can be sent to a different account in QuickBooks. So like I said, that's the file setup accounting tab. On the right, you would enter your account numbers that you want those to go into. Some additional settings, if you have different companies set up in QuickBooks, you can select the company, you can select the correct, company file for that and set those up, as well as if you're using class tracking in QuickBooks, you can specify the class in that tab as well. When it comes to creating the vendor bills, they are created automatically within a few minutes of you closing the PO or receiving the EDI in Paladin. And it's going to send that over, and that's going to include information such as the vendor, the date from the applied freight window, the reference number is set to a supplier invoice number that you've entered and received the PO. If you did not specify a supplier invoice, it uses the purchase order in Paladin. The amount due on the purchase order, any memos that references Paladin, things like that. That bill is also going to include your part number, your description, your cost, quantity, the line item extension. When using this feature to create vendor bills, corresponding received purchase order debts are excluded from your GL. So what that means is if you don't have this feature turned on and you're just using the nightly GL, there will be an inventory received line. When you're using this feature, rather than those POs showing up on that inventory received line, they're going to be excluded from that so that it does not duplicate that information when it sends it over to QuickBooks. Because the inventory will not match, it'll So then when you're looking at your receiving, your general ledger, those amounts are not going to be the same because it's going over as a bill rather than being included in that GL. When QuickBooks has when QuickBooks integration has vendor bills enabled, you can set your own alphanumeric supplier invoice numbers, which will show in QuickBooks as the reference number. Note, if the invoice date is different than the PO date in Paladin, when it was received in Paladin, sorry, the vendor bill in QuickBooks will have a different date then as well. For multi-stores, if you're using your PO transfers from store to store, you will need manager credentials to reverse the purchase order to undo the receiving and have to remove those bills from QuickBooks as well. This integration is very useful because it allows you to set the information to go where you want it to without having to manually go through each account and set it up on your own. I work with many stores that use this integration. It is great. It works exactly how we intend it to. So it takes that information, transfers it over into QuickBooks, and then you can go into QuickBooks and do all the things you would normally do. Our integration does work with both the enterprise and the online versions. So that's always great when you can, use the version that you're more comfortable with. To get this set up, give us a call. All of our techs here are pretty fluent with how to set up QuickBooks as well as all of the details pertaining to it. Are there any questions? I'll pop open the chat here so I can see what you guys got. All right, I don't. Oops, there we go. I put OTC over the counter COGS into Paladin, but not ours, so it's going to turn. So Scott, with that, it's going to use the margins that you have set, the reference margin that you have set up for your COGS. So it would still send that over to your QuickBooks. Oh, sorry. Scott asked, he says that he puts his cost of goods for his over-the-counters in Paladin, but not his prescriptions. And he was wondering if you could turn off his cost of goods for RX. But what I was saying was the way that works is because when pharmacies set up their prescription stuff, we set a reference margin for that, so it'll use the reference margin for his cost of goods. Any other questions? Craig asks, can you use the same GL more than once in GL setup? What do you mean by the same GL, Craig? Oh, the same account number from. So Craig wanted to know if you could use the same account number from QuickBooks in the GL setup, and yes, Craig, you can. Scott, you said in the preview there was a mention of paying online or by text. I believe that would be the webinar for Paladin Shop that you would be looking for. Paladin Shop is a newer feature that we're coming out with that we've done a webinar on as well. Did that answer your question, Craig? Jeff asks if instead of it automatically making the changes overnight, if you can manually push a button to push the changes to QuickBooks. And the answer is yes, Jeff. There is a way that you can go into where you view your GL in the data viewer and export that GL whenever you would like. So if you'd like it to happen before it would run overnight, say you want to do it at the end of your day, you can do that as well. Robin, how do you get the PO number on the invoice that feeds over? Let me go back to that slide here because I know that it mentioned it. So it's right here when QuickBooks integration has vendor bills enabled. It'll use either the supplier invoice number. So if it's if it's EDI, it uses the PO number that the vendor supplies. If it is a manual, there's a section where you can enter that information. And then Robin also asked, why does the freight not show up in Paladin for EDIs? So it will. What it does is, so when you go into your EDI and you apply freight to those invoices, it'll actually send that in over as a separate. Actually, it doesn't send it separate. Sorry, that was the old way. It is updated since then. So it sends it, it adds it to the PO and sends it as well. Any other questions? All right. Oh, here we go from Susan. If you manually transfer end of day numbers, will it duplicate automatically? It will not, because Paladin will know, hey, we've sent this information previously. And so when the integration goes to run overnight, it grabs information that had not been sent. Scott asks, who do we ask for if we want to set this up? Go to general support, let them know, hey, I'm interested in getting the QuickBooks integration set up. They will get it over to the software department, and the software department will give you a call to schedule getting it all set up, Scott. Kate asks, how are due dates transferred from Paladin to QuickBooks? When you're speaking of due dates, Kate, are you talking about like customer due dates or billing due dates for your POs? Okay, so the billing due dates, I want to say Paladin doesn't generate those, so it would be something that you would have to go in and add to the bill when you're looking at your bills. Scott, there is an additional cost, which is, I believe there's a setup and a monthly, which I should have included and I did not, and I don't know it off the top of my head. So Scott asked if there's a service, if this is included in your current billing or if there's an additional fee. There is, let me see if I can find that for you real quick. Oop. Oh. Sorry, give me just a second to find that information for you. the heck? That is not what I clicked on. It doesn't look like I can find it right now. But what I will do is, Scott, let me find out for you, and I'll shoot you an email. Karen, do you need to have freight set up as an item number? No. So anytime you're doing a purchase order, you have the ability to add freight, whether it's EDI or a manual purchase order, and it will automatically do that on there when you add that freight. Any other questions I can answer for you guys today before we go ahead and close out? Karen, it asks, if you start this and don't like it, can you turn it off? Yes. Just like with most of the integrations and stuff in Paladin, if it's not something for you, you prefer to do it whichever way you're doing it currently, yes, we can go ahead and cancel that and get it shut off for you. All right. Anything else real quick before we go ahead and close this out? Oh, yes, Karen, just like with all of our webinars, this is being recorded and you can go back and watch it later, as well as if any questions arise from rewatching or watching the webinar, feel free to give us a call and we can answer those questions. Robin asks if Paladin has the ability to have a main vendor and sub vendors. We do not currently. We just have the list of vendors. We don't have a way to tie those vendors together. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this now. If there's any questions, any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. We can answer any of those questions as well as walk you through any of the setup or anything like that you have questions of. You all have a great day.